Hey everybody, it's 2 o'clock Eastern and I'm really happy that you've decided to come and join us at the Self-Leadership Reading Club. What is a reading club versus a book club? Well, you don't have to buy the book because I'm going to read to you and then we're going to do about 15 minutes so of discussion. So right now we are reading Jack Canfields' The Success Principles. Sorry, I've just had an Amber Alert and that's actually about travellers returning to Ontario. So I hope you're getting that. Today is March 27th, 2020. Yes, we're reading Jack Canfield's The Success Principles. We're up to principle number 3. We had a great discussion yesterday about principle number 2, knowing what you're here for, knowing what your purpose is. If you want to have a brief outline of what happened there, you can find the recording on our channel. Well, let's get started. Today's principle is decide what you want. So what I want to know right now is who's online. So if you are watching live, please put something in the comment box so I know that you're here. You can only do that if you are logged in, just so you know. I had a few people message me yesterday saying, I can't do it. So you can put yourself in the comment box there. And if you're watching replay, you can do #replay. But at any point you have a comment, a question, a resource, something you want to add, you can pop it there in the comment box. So principle number 3 is decide what you want. There's a great quote here. I'm going to turn my phone over because this alert keeps going up here. The indispensable first step to getting things you want out of this life is this: decide what you want. Sounds super simple, right? Decide what you want. We have early childhood programming, which allows us to ask for what we want. And, you know, we cry, we're hungry, we get food. We cry because we're dirty, we have a bath. We cry because we want to have our parents read us a book, they read us a book. But as we get older, we start to conform to other people and we become less and less cognizant of what we want and verbalizing it, which is kind of interesting. So a great section here says, don't live someone else's dreams. Welcome, I can see quite a few people have just popped on. Don't live someone else's dreams. After many years of those kind of sanctions, most of us eventually lost touch with the needs of our bodies and the desires of our hearts. That's my cat, Henry. And somehow got stuck trying to figure out what other people wanted us to do. We learn how to act and how to be to get their approval. I can't have my tea cat. As a result, we now do a lot of things we don't want to do, but that please a lot of other people. Interesting. Some examples here. We go to medical school because that is what his dad wanted for us. We get married to please our parents. We get a real job instead of pursuing our dream career in the arts. We go straight into graduate school instead of taking a year off and backpacking through Europe. In the name of being sensible, we end up becoming numb to our own desires. And it's no wonder that when we ask many teenagers what they want to do or be, they honestly answer, I don't know. And the reason behind that is there's too many layers of what you should be doing, what they don't know, etc. You'd better, things that are being told by career advisors and teachers and parents and peers, all piled on top and suffocating what people really want. So how do you reclaim yourself and your dreams? And how do you get back to what you really want with zero fear, zero shame, zero inhibitions? Well, how do you connect with that real passion? You start on the smallest layer by honoring your preferences in every situation, no matter how large or small. And don't think of them as petty. They might be inconsequential to someone else, but not to you. I'm going to give you a pure example of that. So let's say you've got a group of friends and you've decided to go out and have something to eat together and socialize. And somebody says, where should we go and eat? And there is some people who are people pleasers who say, oh, I don't mind. But really they do mind because they don't like spicy food. So a Mexican restaurant might not be best for them, or an Indian restaurant. Maybe they are gluten intolerant sometimes. But someone says pizza and they go, oh, okay. And they go there and they don't really have a good time. You're constantly giving yourself over to somebody else's wishes instead of, well, I'd really like to go to these places. Blah, 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 giving lots of different options, but we don't. We succumb into what other people want because we're people pleasers. So stop settling for less than what you want. If you're going to re-own your power and get what you really want out of life, you'll have to stop saying, I don't know, I don't care, it doesn't matter, because it does matter, or whatever. Not a fan of that phrase. When you're confronted with a choice, ask yourself, do I care? Do I have a preference? What if it does matters? What do I really want to do? And not being clear about what you want and making other people's needs and desires more important than your own is simply a habit. You can break it by practicing quite the opposite. There's a great story here. It says, many years ago, I took a workshop with self-esteem and motivational expert Sherry Carter Scott, who's the author of If Life is a Game, There Are Rules. As the 24 of us entered the training room on the first morning, we were directed to a seat in one of the chairs facing the front of the room. There was a spiral-bound notebook on every chair. Some were blue, some were yellow, some were red. The one on my chair was yellow. I remember thinking, I hate yellow. I wish I had a blue one. Then Cherie said something that changed my life forever. If you don't like the color of the notebook you have, trade with someone else and get the one that you want. You deserve to have everything in life exactly the way you want it. Isn't that really nice? What a radical concept. I had not operated from this premise before. I had settled thinking I couldn't have what I wanted. I couldn't have the blue notebook. So I turned to the person to my right and said, would you mind trading my blue notebook for a yellow one? She responded, not at all. Actually, I like yellow. Fits my mood. I now have my blue notebook. Not a huge success in the greater scheme of things, but it was the beginning of reclaiming my birthright to acknowledge my preferences and get what I want. Up until then, I would have discounted my preference as petty and not worth acting upon. I would have continued to numb out my awareness of what I wanted. That day was a turning point for me, the beginning of allowing myself to know and act on my wants and desires in a much more powerful way. Is there a situation right now, if you were to think about it, where you've said, oh, I don't mind, but then someone's offered you something and you've took it and you thought, oh, I do mind, I don't like that. Oh, and then you've had to put up with it or maybe even eat it. Pure example, someone offers you a box of chocolate. Which one do you want? Oh, I don't mind. And they give you the one with the hazelnut and you're not a fan of nuts, but then you eat it anyway. Oh, you're missing out on a really enjoyable experience. It's part of being a martyr, right? There's nothing wrong with saying, oh, is there any strawberry ones left? I love the strawberries. Or I don't mind as long as it doesn't have nuts. People want to know what you want. People really want to give you what you desire, believe it or not. It's like the person who never asked for a promotion. Maybe the manager's sat out there somewhere thinking they're very happy in their position. They've never said anything about wanting to progress within the company. And every time someone gets promoted, inside you're like, why wasn't I offered that? Well, it's time to stand up and say, hey, just so you know, if there's any other roles coming up, I'd really like a challenge and a change. Very happy in my position. But what can I do to progress in the company? Vocalize what you want. If you don't ask for it, you're not going to get it. It's very, very simple. Let's see here. Clarifying your vision of your ideal life. What are you thinking so far? Pop something in the comment box here. There's quite a few of you online and you're not being very chatty today and we're making you think. The theme of this book is how to get from where you are to where you want to be. And to accomplish this, you have to know two things. You need to know exactly where you are already, and you need to know exactly where you want to get to and very precise about it. Your vision is a detailed description of where you want to get to. It describes in detail what your destination looks like and feels like. And to create a balanced and successful life, we want this harmony of balance. Your vision needs to include the following areas: work and career, finances, recreation and free time, health and fitness, relationships, personal goals, and contribution to the larger community. At this stage in the journey, it's not necessary to know exactly how you're going to get there, but you want to be clear on what areas of your life you want to look at. So I'm just going to stop reading for a second here. How many of you have ever done before a life wheel? I wish I could share my screen because I could show you one. But a life wheel is essentially a circle with 7 sections in there, and it has all these different life areas, and you measure where you are on the level of happiness in that area. So let's say, for example, one of those areas might be spirituality, and you kind of put that at like a 4. And then you go to your relationships, maybe that's a 9. And maybe you go to your career and it's a 3. And you go around these areas and you mark them. And then you prioritize those ones that are low, get rid of the ones that are high, and prioritize them in kind of the top 7, if they're all low, hopefully they're not, on the areas that you want to increase. And then you can look at those specific areas. So let's say, for example, I scored low in spirituality, health and wellness, and socializing. Right now, we can't socialize. We're in the middle of the COVID-19, right? You're watching this on replay. Hopefully, we're all out of it and we're all socializing all over the place. But anyway, so let's say I scored low in these areas. I would know then what to focus on. So I'll say, where am I with my spirituality? Well, you know, I don't meditate as often as I should do. I don't have discussions about spirituality. I haven't read a book around spirituality for a while. Okay, so there's what I want to do. And when am I going to do it? And how am I going to honor myself and do those things, right? That's a whole ball game on setting smart goals and, you know, doing a SWOT analysis. What's going to stop me from reading that book and things like that? What's going to get in my way of meditating? Well, the kids interrupted me wanting a drink. Okay, so let me do it at nighttime when they're asleep. These are things that are important to me and I want to make time for them. And if you don't sit down and go, what am I making time for right now? Are you just making time for everyone else and not yourself? Like, this is a beautiful time of reflection right now. Spring is about growth and being reborn and new things being birthed, ideas, innovation. Take a look at what you want. If you want me to send you a life wheel, I'm gonna write this down. I'm gonna send it to everybody who does the has the email reminders for the subscribing, which you can see in the description there. A life wheel. I'm gonna send it to you with just some instructions on how you use it. It's a great tool, really, really great tool. Life wheel. Let me ask you another question. Who here has a bucket list? Pop in the comments. Do you have a bucket list? Do you know what a bucket list is? Are you wondering why I'm pronouncing the word bucket a bit strange? Yeah, I'm not from round these parts, am I? I'm from Manchester in the UK, but I live here in Ontario in Canada now. Bucket list is a list of things that, if money and knowledge and everything was not a restriction, what would you do with your life? Yeah, you have a list. I'm so happy to hear that. And you know, sometimes I add to my list. I'm going to tell you a quick story. When I was 25, I actually had a bit of a midlife crisis. You could say quarter life crisis. I really did. And I thought, oh my goodness, I'm really old. And I was successful. I owned a house. I owned my own business. I had people working for me. I had money in the bank, and I wasn't as happy as I thought I was. And I heard about this concept, the bucket list, and I wrote down everything. And I went and did them all in the next 5 years, all of them, apart from one, which was flying to the moon. And the only reason why I couldn't was A, money, and B, my physical fitness. I could have done a simulation of it. I looked into it in Texas. Isn't that interesting? But I had things like, I want to be kissed under the Eiffel Tower. I wanted to, what else was on my list? I wanted to work in a summer camp in America because my parents had never let me, all these different things. So I sold everything I had. I went and did my whole bucket list. Am I suggesting you do the same thing? No, I'm happy to talk to you more about that story. But the thing is, you don't want to get to the very end of your days and say, oh, I really wish I'd done that. Like walking on fire. I really wanted to walk on fire when I was in Fiji, and I got a bit scared and I thought, ooh, and I had a few drinks and thought maybe this isn't the right environment. So I wrote it on my bucket list and I made it visual because I really wanted to walk on fire. And then a few years later, I ended up walking on hot coals, which were between 1100 and 1800 degrees Fahrenheit in heat. And I walked across burning hot coals in San Jose, California with Tony Robbins. And I didn't burn my feet and I didn't feel heat. It was quite something. But that's what I want to do. And maybe your things are trying new food or visiting a different country or learning a new language, or, you know, it could be something simple or something big. Those people who are commenting here now and sending me separate messages, what's on your list? And what are you doing about it? Because you're in life right now to make these choices and go and do them. You're not just here to serve other people. Serve yourself, serve your desires, serve your purpose, serve those things that light you up. Because when things light you up, you light other people up. When they're lit up, they light other people up. And it just keeps giving and giving and giving. I'd love to hear what your bucket lists are. So that's another thing to look at. I want you to also think about, when was the last time that you achieved something really big, like really, really big, that before, prior to that time, you thought was far too big and you couldn't possibly do it? I want you to think about that. What is that? For me, that was walking on hot coals, was one of them. There were many others. But then once I did it, I'm like, oh, that wasn't half as hard as I thought it was. So when you're writing things down, you think, well, that's ridiculous. I'm never going to never going to get to Bali and see the monkey forest. Well, I don't know why I'm writing it down. I'll never have that kind of money. Do not limit yourself. The only limits in life are the ones that you set yourself. They are limiting beliefs. Okay? If you really want to go to Bali and you really want to go to the monkey forest and be in the unlimited pool and, you know, have a margarita or whatever's visual for you, then go and do it. You can, you know. The other thing to think about is how are you sharing that vision that you want to do? And this is something simple as goals and things like that. And I'm thinking about, so I actually went to one of Jack Canfield's sessions a couple of months ago. And what I do, oh, here it is. So what I do is I take my notes. So this is what I went on, One Day to Greatness. It was really cool, actually. I talk a lot of notes. And, you know, how often do you sit with these books and, you know, all these scribbles? I'm like, oh, gosh, that's interesting. And I wrote everything down. So I took all my notes and I condensed them down to things that I want to know about. And I made this, which looks pretty cool. But then what I've started to do is take my notes and make them visual. So here's an example of what I did for JT Fox event I went to. And I framed it. And this is in my office. I actually brought it back from my office. It's got all the things that are important to me that I want to achieve. You know, things like imagination closing, I want to learn about, funnel of other speakers, where my jackpot is in my services, what level am I playing at, questions to ask myself every day. It's kind of cool, right? So make them visual. Another thing that I have that I can share with you is, so this is one of my weight loss goals. It can be anything. But so I wrote it on a card and I wrote down what my goal is. And I wrote down on the outside specific feelings and reasons why I'm going to do it. So for you, losing weight might be so you can run around in the park with your kids. For me, it's being more mindful about food and greater habits. I also wrote in the back my milestones so I can cross them off when I've achieved them. And I put it in a magnetic photo holder. I'll put this back because I don't want to lose it. Magnetic photo holder, and I stick it in front of the fridge. So every time I go to the fridge, which is definitely more than I should be doing right now, I see it. So if you really want something and you know what that is, write it down, have it visual, do a vision board. There's all sorts of many, many different ways that you can do that. But I totally invite you to look at different areas of your life. If you would like the life wheel, drop me an email, ella@ellabates.com. And I'll send it to you. If you were already subscribed, you're going to get it anyway. Yeah, so the third principle, decide what you want. Go for it. Very excited. Let's leave you with, we've got a couple of minutes here. Another quote for you. If you limit your choices only to what seems possible or reasonable, you're going to disconnect yourself from what you truly want. And all that is left is a compromise. Oh, beautiful. Thank you. Someone's just commented here. Rowida, on my list to get my yellow and blue shorts in Muay Thai boxing, also to get my degree in CYC field. Yay, congratulations. Muay Thai is a really awesome boxing. I tried it a few years ago. There's a really beautiful, call it a dojo in my area. So I want to introduce you quickly to what we're going to be talking about in the next episode, which is principle number 4, believe it's possible. Isn't this awesome? I'm going to really, really go for it on this next episode. The number one problem that keeps people from winning today is the lack of belief in themselves. We're going to talk about self-belief. It's going to be really exciting. I hope you can join us. Come armed with your questions. I'm going to put my bookmark in there. I'm going to get my life wheel together to send to you guys who have emailed me. And I thank you for joining us today. I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. Feel free to subscribe if you want to have the updates for when we go live. If you're watching the replay, do hashtag replay on the comments so I know you've watched it. And thank you so much for joining us. We will see you on tomorrow's episode.